A little bit of a surprising day, I'd say. You know, we thought we'd be coming in here doing draft reaction and sort of discussing the idea of of Deebo and Brandon both staying with the 49ers, and they probably will. I did not think we'd be dealing with more trade rumors today.
Right.
But here we are. Let's bring on Andrew Brandt. He's always my favorite in terms of the business of sports. He used to run the front office and player personnel for the Green Bay Packers. He's now the executive director of the Morad Center at Villanova. He joins us now here on Willard and Dibs. Good afternoon, Andrew. Great to have you.
Hey, always good to be with you. Just thinking about my days back in the NFL, and unfortunately for teams right now, it doesn't get that much less stressful because once the draft's over, you're bringing guys in, you're doing undrafted signings, you're preparing for minicamp in a few days. And now with all these rookie contracts predetermined, you're basically signing these guys immediately, whereas in the past it was always just wait until the summer.
No doubt. It has evolved a lot. And I wonder about this, Andrew. Would it make sense to you? I'm sure you're aware there were trade rumors with the 49ers receiving core because it's about to get really, really expensive. But we've all been under the impression that if they get through the draft and they're still on the team, they're not being traded. But there are still rumors out there. Would it surprise you if there were still discussions ongoing?
No, not at all. It would not surprise me if there were discussions going during the draft, before the draft, after the draft. Because in the case of Aiyuk, you have a player on last year of a contract. That tends to be a time where people are moved if there's dissatisfaction, if there's discontent. And I guess the hard thing about a trade like that is it's a two-part trade. You know, there has to be an agreement on draft compensation or whatever trade compensation is agreed upon. And in this case, it seems to me there has to be agreement on a new contract. So that makes it a difficult trade to happen because you're going to have multiple pieces involved, and it may be harder to get the contract done than to get the trade done. So that's an interesting one. If the Samuel one is in play, there you talk about remaining years on a contract, but at a high number, and someone who hasn't always been available. So there are also issues there. My sense is the odds are probably no one gets moved, but I would think discussions would continue.
If you were the GM potentially on the receiving end, which of these two scenarios would be more appealing to you? Aiyuk, the better player in need of a contract, or Deebo, the lesser player, but with a more unwieldy contract?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And again, I'm the business guy. I'm not the scout. I don't know the exact value of players. But again, from the business point of view, you'd like to be able to come in with a contract of your doing rather than the 49ers doing, if I'm another GM, with whatever, my language, my structure, the way I do bonuses, the way I may want to do option bonuses, etc. So in that vein, I'd probably talk about Aiyuk and where we could fit him in. The problem is, of course, as everyone knows, I'm sure you've been talking about, the market has really jumped. And this actually started with the Samuel class. It was that class where it was Terry McLaurin, it was DK Metcalf, it was that group, it was A.J. Brown, right when he got traded a few years ago. And that sort of really jumped the market. And then, of course, last year was the big kicker with the Devontae Adams deal, the Tyreek Hill deal. So we've sort of jumped to a new level, and that's happened again now with A.J. Brown again. And we've got Justin Jefferson coming up, and we've got Jamar Chase coming up. Now, we can all say that Aiyuk shouldn't get that kind of money. But the problem is when you get a market level, it's hard to distinguish players because they all want that top level.
Andrew Brandt is with us, Business of Sports podcast. Used to run the Packers front office and the draft years ago. Is with us here on Willard and Dibs. Andrew, I wonder if you could help everyone understand what challenges the 49ers face over the next 12 months, maybe a little bit more, in that right now their quarterback is on a rookie deal, but that's about to change.
They've really been able to take advantage of this rookie salary system because a lot of people don't really understand it, and I'll just say it again. The big value for teams is not so much that rookies are on a fixed and very reasonable rate. That's been the case for many years. The real value add for teams, and I can't believe the union gave this away, is that there is no ability to renegotiate a drafted player's contract until they've been in the league 3 years. So that's an extraordinary value. So if I'm Brock Purdy's agent, I'm just steamed because I was a starting player after 1 year and I was a starting player after 2 years and playing in the position where my peers are making $40, $45, $50 million. And the team can't even renew me because of the CBA. The team should want to renew me before the prices rise again next year. But this is the CBA that not only took a jackhammer to rookie salaries, but made it so you can't even do it till 3 years. So to answer your question, they have been and continue to leverage that with contracts, as you've all seen, for Deebo and for Trent and for Bosa and all these players that are getting their staggered contracts before the Purdy deal comes due. But yes, continue to leverage that. From a cap perspective, I would try to load cap into 2024 because you're going to be loading it on Purdy in future years. So this is a way to stagger these deals, and what an advantage they've had, and how that player has really saved that team from a lot of financial problems.
So by loading the cap for this upcoming year, would that make you less motivated thus to trade Deebo or Aiyuk, knowing that you can load up this year one last time before you have to pay Brock?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know about motivation, but it is possible to keep those guys, obviously, because you're not putting a $20, $30, $40 million number on your quarterback. You can afford to load those kind of receiver salaries. Listen, this has happened, although the Chargers are now devoid of both of them, but they went 2 years with two $20 million receivers in Williams and Keenan Allen while they had a rookie quarterback contract. The Eagles now have a quarterback in a veteran deal and two receivers making $20+ million. So it can happen. Now, yes, you've got to skimp in other areas. Maybe it's interior offensive line. Maybe it's linebacker. Maybe it's defensive secondary. But these are ways to structure these deals.
Andrew, I'm curious what your thought is on what the 49ers ended up doing in the first round. They took a receiver. Is that simply the best guy available, or is there strategy and messaging to the veteran receivers with that pick?
It's hard to know. You're talking to someone that sat there when we took Aaron Rodgers, when we had the most durable quarterback in the history of football. So I'm not a big need draft person. I think you do take the best player available and you trust your scouting system. And I'm just trusting that John Lynch and his scouting group spent the last 6 months coming up with a board, and when they picked, that was the name at the top, regardless of position. Is there backstory there with the players? Probably could be. I mean, maybe there's a feeling about Samuel's continued availability on a regular basis. But if Aiyuk is going to hit the market next year, it obviously makes some sense because you don't draft for need now, you draft for need in the future. So it does make sense in that way.
Andrew, since you drafted Aaron Rodgers, can you share to what level does a team think about someone's like feelings and reaction to the pick you're about to make?
Yeah, it's a question I've gotten a lot, and I know they're getting it in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. I think they actually called Cousins while they're on the clock with Phoenix. We didn't do that, of course, with Rodgers. I don't think they did it with Love. I wasn't there. I just think these draft situations are tough because, like I said, we never expected, ever, that Aaron Rodgers would be the only name up there for us with our first-round grade. And never went into the draft wanting to take a quarterback. But that's the way that's a lot of teams, the best player available. So no, we didn't call Brett, and Brett was upset, and we get all that. But it's just it's unfortunate because that's the one position, of course, where only someone can play. You would never think of calling. They would never think, I don't think, of calling Deebo or Brandon that they were taking a receiver.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah.
Andrew, great stuff. Thank you so much for hopping on today.
Thanks, guys. And for listeners, I'm doing these reels now about this stuff on Instagram. So just go to Andrew Brandt 2 on Instagram.
There it is.
Nice.
Andrew Brandt 2 on IG. Don't scrub your account of the 49ers, okay, Andrew?
You got it.
All right. Thank you. There he goes. Andrew Brandt.